Alright lads, so today we are saying goodbye to the Human Killer IT and hello to the Soul Reaper Inheritance Trials. And in today's video we'll be breaking down some of the better characters to use to tackle this particular quest in case you are still wanting to farm super links or potions. So in this case, the Soul Reaper Inheritance Trials is starting as of right now and will be lasting until April 16th. As always with Inheritance Trials, the whole gimmick of this particular quest is that every enemy will have Iron Skin, and Iron Skin essentially reduces the damage that you can do to them by 80% unless you inflict them with a status summon. So the idea is that you want to either brute force it with characters that can do a lot amount of damage, or use characters with status summons that have an easy time inflicting status summons. Now the rules for this particular quest has Soul Reaper enemies, so again characters with Soul Reaper killer is going to be ideal here, since they are getting the 3x killer effect. The enemies themselves also have killer against captain characters, so ideally you want to avoid bringing captains unless it's your only resort. The enemies are resistant to poison, so any characters that can inflict poison will be doing no status summons. And the pools that we will see on the floor this time around are burn pools. And those are the general rules. If you're able to follow those, you can have a very easy time tackling this quest. Before we do go over some of the characters that I personally recommend, as always on your screen right now are characters that increase the drop rate for, most importantly, super links or potions. So by bringing these characters into your lobby, you get those additional super links or potions. We aren't going to mention every single character hit that is on this list, but do understand by bringing these characters, you are getting the added drop rate and you're getting more value per ticket and also your time. So you might be more inclined to bring them here, but it really depends on how you want to play Inheritance Trials. Do you want to carry using your favorite characters, or do you want to get carried using these super links or characters? And in some cases, you can do both. And those characters we're going to mention in our recommendation list. So let's get into it. But let's go over some characters that are worth using in this particular Inheritance Trials. Firstly, starting up with the Technique attribute. And Technique this time around has a great set of characters to use. The first one, of course, being the Spirits of Overview version of Toshiro. He himself, obviously, is a very hard-hitting character that has a lot of ways to increase his damage output, whether that's by inflicting a status summon, being at full stamina, or having the gauge effect. If you use this character, you can have a very easy time thanks to his damage output and also strong attacks that he does have. The extra immunity to every status summon is also really good, and he can share that to entire team, which makes him a pretty good lead for carrying other links or characters. Now, you do have to understand that Toshiro himself is a captain, so he is going to be taking significantly more damage compared to the average character, but I feel like his damage output outweighs the fact that he's going to take more damage in this quest, so it's not really that big of a deal. If you're looking for an easy time tackling this IT, especially in the Technique attribute, this Toshiro is probably going to be one of your better leads. Next up, though, we have 1000 Year Blood or Uryu, a very solid character in this particular quest. A great team player, since he does actually buff the team's strong attack damage, and also can heal your team by 20% every time you enter the map. Comes with great crowd control. He himself does have Soul Reaper killer. He's not a captain. And the great thing about this Uryu is that he does have Pierce Iron Skin, so he's never going to have that 80% damage reduction from enemies when not afflicted by an ailment. He's going to make going for his IT super quick. And the great thing about this Uryu too is that he also does increase the drop rate for links or potions and also super links or potions. If you want to maximize your soul ticket and time, a 4-man Uryu team is probably going to be the best thing to do here. Renewed Ichigo is going to be another very solid option. In this case, he himself does not have killer, but in Ichigo's case, it really doesn't matter. He is one of the hardest hitting characters in the game thanks to his increased chance to inflict status summons, Frenzy +2, and also the spiritual pressure boosts. As already mentioned, the great thing about this character is that he does have an increased chance to inflict a status summon, and that is to any speed enemy. It's not regardless of killer, so realistically this Ichigo can be used in any Inheritance Trials. Of course, he can perform better when he does have killer, but as already mentioned, the damage output he has is absolutely insane that it makes him be usable in content like this where he doesn't even have killer. He has great survivability too, so if you're looking for, again, another easy time and you don't have a character that fits the requirements, Soul Reaper killer for example, Ichigo is going to be a great lead. Another great lead is going to be the Artworks version of Ichigo. In his case, he's just a very standard good character. You can't go wrong with Artwork Ichigo. 60% Berserker, great mobility, immune to every status summon, does have Soul Reaper killer, and can also apply weakening on every attack. Since he has been out in the game for almost 2 years now, which is crazy to think about, a lot of people do have this character duped out. So if you have no better option, Artwork Ichigo is definitely going to be always a good character to rely on. Moving on to the power attribute though, first character that I would recommend is the power version of Kenpachi. Now this Spirits of Overview version of Kenpachi is actually really solid in this particular quest. Again, very high damage output, especially if you are able to keep this character at full stamina, and that's thanks to the fact that he can apply weakening on every single attack, Frenzy +2, great set of strong attacks, and also 40% more strong attack damage when you are at full stamina. That and the fact that he does more damage in co-op quests, with the also fact that he does a Soul Reaper killer, he's going to be a great character for this particular IT. You just have to be a tad bit wary of the burn pools that you'll see on the floor, and also the fact that he himself is a captain, so he is taking significantly more damage. But as far as snipers do go in the power attribute, this Kenpachi is the best one. So if you're able to play this quest without taking any types of damage and you know exactly where the spawns are going to be, Kenpachi is definitely going to be a great choice for this particular quest. The mana version of Yumachika is also going to be a very solid option in this particular quest. Of course, he is a great character for increasing the drop rate for Linkshot potions and also super Linkshot potions, but since he himself does go through Iron Skin, he's not going to have to deal with that 80% damage reduction. Yumachika himself is also a great team supporter, increasing your character's movement speed, strong attack damage, and also healing them every time you enter another map. The Burn the Witch version of Bruno is also going to be a very solid choice here. In his case, damage output he is lacking compared to some of the other characters, but since he does have weakening on every attack, does have a good set of strong attacks, and also does have a good enough damage output, Frenzy +1 with a 40% Berserker, he's also going to be a very solid option here, especially considering the fact that this Bruno does come with some added utility, many last-ditch survival, and also 50% chance to dodge Sorcerer attacks. So Bruno in general is going to be a very just solid option, good survivability thanks to that 50% chance to dodge, and also good enough damage output to take on this particular quest. The Spirits of with your Kisuke is going to be another very solid option, great damage output, can apply these stat elements, does have sword per killer, and he himself isn't a captain, so you don't have to worry about taking any extra damage. And another great thing about Kisuke is that he himself is immune to every status element, so you also don't have to worry about the status elements on the floor. Since this Kisuke does have a tracking vortex with paralysis and also lacerate, there's gonna be a lot of times when you just constantly inflict status elements, doing a lot of damage, and also running just great crowd control. And then my last recommendation for the power attribute is of course going to be the 1000-year Blood War version of Yamamoto. Now in this case, he himself does not have killer, and he himself is also a captain, so he's taking significantly more damage. But it's Yamamoto. His damage output is great, once more great crowd control, and a lot of people have this character. Despite him being limited, he is one of the most sought after characters in the game, and if you have no better option for the power attribute, Yamamoto will of course always be good or reliable and will take on this quest with ease. But remember, you do have to be a tad bit safe here since you are taking a tad bit more damage. Moving on to the speed attribute though, our first and best recommendation is of course going to be Tenta Zangetsu. This quest was almost designed for him. Almost so he was designed for this quest. Tenta in this case has a great damage output, Frenzy +1, more damage in co-op quests with a high Berserker value, but the most important thing is that he does have Pierce Iron Skin, so he's going to go for this quest relatively easy, especially with the strong attacks that he does have. And the great thing about Tenta is that he is immune to burn, the pulls that you'll see on the floor, he isn't a captain, has sword per killer, and also increases the drop rate for Linkshot potions and also super Linkshot potions. If you want to have very fast run, super easy time while getting the added bonus drops, Tenta is going to be the MVP for this entire month. If you don't have Tenta though, another great reliable character here is of course going to be 7th Anniversary Uryu. In this case, he himself does not have sword per killer, but he isn't a captain, and the great thing about Uryu is that he himself does have a great damage output, especially when you do get the gauge to full completion, which you will do quite often in this particular quest. But the most important thing is that Uryu does have an increased chance to inflict the status element, and with Frenzy +2, weakening and drain on every single attack, you're constantly inflicting status elements, you're constantly doing a lot of damage, and you're also constantly keeping yourself safe thanks to the built-in drain. Uryu in general is really good in any inheritance trials, and this one is no exception. But our third recommendation is going to be the technical version of Akon. Akon's just a very solid character, not really going to be a character you want to carry, but just a great option to use here. He does have an increased chance to inflict status elements, and in this case you can inflict both burn and also lacerate. But in Akon's case, the most important part is that he does have an increased chance to inflict a status element, a decent damage output, but also buffs characters like Uryu and also Tenta Zangetsu. Since he does have a team party buff, increasing everyone's strong attack damage by 20%, he's a great character to have just to be in the team, especially considering the fact that he does also increase the amount of Linkshot potions and also super Linkshot potions you can get from this particular quest. Onto the mind attribute though, one of your better characters for this particular quest of course is going to be 7th Anniversary Ichigo. He himself is immune to every status element, has great crowd control with the Vortex SA2, can apply weakening and also paralysis, already has a very high damage output, and since he does have killer, he's going to have a very easy time tackling this particular quest. Again, once more, a lot of people do have Ichigo, so he might be the go-to for a lot of people for this particular month, since he is currently the best mind character with sword per killer. But if you don't have Ichigo, another great solid option is of course going to be the hidden version of Aaroniero. Now in Aarionero's case, he does not have killer, but he's still going to of course be a very viable character here, great damage output, great set of strong attacks, but most importantly he does have an easy time inflicting status elements against any hard enemy in the game. That's going to be good to get through the Iron Skin, and the great thing about this Aaroniero is that he also does increase the amount of Linkshot potions and also super Linkshot potions you can get from this particular quest. To go alongside that, if you have no other better character, the visored version of Lisa is going to be very viable here, mainly just due to a high damage output, Frenzy +1 with a 40% Berserker and also the Spiritual Pressure boost is essentially enough to get through any quest. But in this case, she does have a super easy time inflicting Starsment against any hard enemy, and also buffs every mind character's strong attack damage by 20%, making it a pretty good lead and also team player. Since she can inflict both Lacerate and also Paralysis, she can be really good against any mobs, especially the bosses when they do spawn in. But lastly, moving on to the heart attribute, probably the most stacked attribute when it comes to this particular IT, as Sorcerer Killers are not rare by any means. In this case, of course, one of the best characters to use is going to be the 6th anniversary version of Aizen. What isn't there to say about Aizen? Great damage output with Frenzy +2, full stamina damage, has a super easy time thanks to his strong attack kit. That tracking Vortex SA2 is ensured to trap enemies in place, kill them, and also keep himself at full stamina. And since he has Serpent Killer, he's going to be a great character for this quest. A lot of people have this character duped out, so he might be a lot of people's go-to leads. But without doubt, as always, one of the better characters for any Inheritance Trials is going to be the 1000-Year Blood War version of Ichigo. Great damage output is Frenzy +2, and also 100% more damage to enemies not afflicted by an ailment. Just like Tensei Gengetsu, he's going to have a very easy time going through this quest, especially since he does have Pierce Iron Skin. Unfortunately, unlike Tensei, he cannot increase the drop rate for Links Up Potions or Super Links Up Potions, but if you want to just have a good leads to go through this quest with ease, despite this character not having killer, Ichigo, of course, is always going to be a great character for Inheritance Trials. The Christmas version of Nin is always going to be really good here, thanks to her increased chance of inflicting stat ailments, with Frenzy +2 and also weakening on every single attack. She's going to be a very good option for this particular IT, especially when you consider the fact that she also increases the drop rate for Links Up Potions and also Super Links Up Potions. So the fact she can do that while also having Serpent Killer makes her a very great character for this particular IT. The Spirits Arthur with Kaname is in a very similar situation. In this case, Kaname is going to be a team player, boosting everyone's movement speed by 30%, their strong attack damage by 20%, and also provides some great crowd control thanks to his tracking Vortex SA2. Now in his case, he doesn't have killer, so he might not be the most optimal character in terms of damage output, but since he does have Frenzy +2 with that tracking Vortex, he is quite often more than not going to be inflicting stat ailments, which will not only keep himself safe, but also allow him just to do more damage as you are inflicting stat ailments, right? The most important thing about Kaname though is that he does increase the amount of Links Up Potions and also Super Links Up Potions you do get, so even though he doesn't have killer here, he's still going to be a very solid option. But our last recommendation, of course, is going to be Spirits Arthur with Yoruichi. Once more, in her case, she does not have killer, but very similar to someone like Lisa, for example, she has an easy time inflicting stat ailments thanks to her increased chance of inflicting stat ailments against any mind enemy. But behind Berserker, Frenzy +1, and also the Spiritual Pressure boost, with the fact that she has weakening on every single attack, she is a very strong character for any Inheritance Trials. This one is no exception. She doesn't have killer, but it doesn't mean she can't be used. But with that said, that's basically my recommendation for characters for this particular IT, again spanning from today, March 19th, all the way to April 16th. On your screen right now are characters that I'm going to be using for this particular Inheritance Trials. Personally, for me, I'm going to go for Tosha for the Technique attribute. He's just going to be a very solid character for this particular IT, especially considering that I do have this character Max Transcended. He's going to have a super easy time going through this quest. For power, I'm going to bring Yamamoto, mainly just because he is Max Transcended. Speed, I'm bringing Tensei Gengetsu, increasing the drop rate, and it's just a great lead, even though he's only 1 out of 5. For mind, I don't have any super links or characters, so I'm kind of forced just to bring Ichigo, but he's going to be a good carry nonetheless. And then for heart, I have a lot of options here. In fact, all the characters I recommended for the heart attribute, I have Max Transcended, but I just like playing with Ichigo, so I'm going to be bringing the 1000-Year Blood with Ichigo. That's my lineup though for this month. Let me know yours in the comments below. And with that said, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next time. Take care and peace.